Marilyn Manson has more evidence in his favor than Johnny Depp did in his dispute with Amber Heard. He does. Now, as I said before in a prior video, I totally understand the fear and the resistance to admitting not only that Amber Heard did commit a hoax against Johnny Depp, but moreover, that this might not be the outlier, the extremely rare, only once in a lifetime do we see this event that people would like it to be. That, in fact, as I've talked about elsewhere on my channel, and there are other people who've talked about it as well, what's starting to dawn on a number of people, and this is what's alarming some of the more extreme activists, what's starting to dawn on a number of people is that Me Too has been weaponized, and that in the current cultural moment we are in, whenever there is a tool available to people who are aggrieved, who are very angry, we understand the sometimes very irrational emotions that one experiences when one is rejected or one is dumped or one is not treated well. And so in situations where one has a tool to exact some kind of revenge, right, and to cause the other person's life to become very unpleasant, and then you can throw in on top of that, then you throw in money, which we know was Amber Heard's initially. That was her primary motivation, was to try to basically blackmail Johnny Depp into giving her more favorable financial terms for the divorce. Or if it's a desire for more media attention, or as in the case of what I do believe with Amber Heard, and especially with Evan Rachel Wood, was the idea of that they could up their profile as gender activists and Me Too activists. And so I understand the fear that people have that, oh my God, what if it turns out that not only did we have this hoax with Amber Heard, but we had a hoax with Evan Rachel Wood, and she seemed so much more believable than Amber Heard. And not only that, but someone did a major documentary about her. And not only that, but look at these other women who accused him. Are we going to say now that it's possible that you could have multiple people accusing someone of something, of harassment and of assault, and they could be lying? It is a pretty astounding prospect, but it is true, and it is what makes this story, I believe, so fascinating and something that is worth paying attention to. And, a lot of people online are saying they're alarmed that the precedent this is setting. Well, what they should be alarmed about, what you should be alarmed about, is the fact that there are apparently multiple people who have been falsely accused and have had their lives more or less ruined, at least in the shorter term and in the longer term as well in a number of these cases, by false accusations. That is what should bother you. And the kind of the sort of like shrugging off of this as if, meh, it's nothing, or some men are going to be falsely accused and have their lives ruined, but hey, that's the price that you got to pay, right? For catching more of the bad guys. That's just not a good way of thinking. It is inevitable that some people will get away with wrong. But when we as a society start punishing falsely accused, then that is just a whole other level of really instilling in your society a sense of extreme disheartenment, I believe. And what I would ask of those who support Evan Rachel Wood, and not only support Evan Rachel Wood, but have their minds closed like some, tightly lidded jar, that there's just no way that Marilyn Manson is innocent of these things, and there's just no way that you could have a number of women on a hoax. There's no way the media could have it this wrong. I would just say, okay, try for a minute to forget the fact that we're talking about Marilyn Manson, and you can forget about the fact that we're talking about Evan Rachel Wood as well. And I just want us to think about some of the things that we have already discovered about this case. And if you go and you look at my video that's linked in the comments below, 29 minutes of all of the evidence in favor of Manson. But if you have think about a situation like this where we have a woman who has conspired with her girlfriend at the time to type up, they type up a fake FBI letter and in evidence that Manson's team, evidence that they have supplied the letter, and we already could have the letter anyway if we wanted to, even apart from Manson's lawyers, because Evan Rachel Wood herself included the letter in family court filings, in a family court dispute that she was involved in with Jamie Bell, her ex-husband and the father of her child. she included this fake FBI letter. So we're not even going off of, we don't even have to go off of Manson's lawsuit. You know, a number of people say that to me, like, you're taking Manson's lawsuit at face value. No, I don't take any of these lawsuits at face value. And that's why when I analyze a number of the lawsuits against Manson, I really shredded them up, because I went through and I was like, wait, if we're going to take this seriously, this doesn't make sense and it's contradictory and whatever, right? Like, I take these lawsuits seriously, but I also allow for the fact that there's nothing preventing people from lying. You can tell 100% lies in your lawsuit. It's not like there's some threat of perjury on you in terms of these legal filings in this way. These introductory salvos, these lawsuits, right? And so what I look at with these lawsuits, and if you're in the LawTube community, tell me if I'm wrong, but what I look at actually are the things that are included in these lawsuits that we know are not faked, like actual evidence, like actual copies of letters, and that sort of thing. And so when I look at Marilyn Manson's lawsuit and I see that he's not just alleging that Evan Rachel Wood and Ilma Gore typed up a fake FBI letter and used it to recruit people, but he's actually included the fake FBI letter. And when I then go and do outside research and I look up the family court custody dispute and the documentation, the paperwork with that, and I see that Evan Rachel Wood has included in her documents that same fake FBI letter, right? Like then yes, to me that is legitimate evidence. These days, the term sexual coercion is becoming much more popular because it's an ideal term for these types of Me Too hoaxes, like what we saw with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case, what we're seeing with the Marilyn Manson situation, what we saw with the Andrew Cuomo situation, and some of the others. What we see is that they really are trying to make use as much as possible to the fullest extent possible of these squishy terms like sexual coercion that are really, when you think about it, are very hard to pin down in terms of their meaning. And they have, you know, a lot of these terms like sexual coercion, they have really convenient, very convenient denotive meaning, in the sense that they imply a lot, right? When someone says, he sexually coerced me, we don't actually know what that means. We don't know what the connotation is, but we know that it sounds bad and it feels bad and, ooh, he coerced me, right? Well, what the term coercion means is someone was in some way persuaded to do something. And what we're seeing now in a number of these cases where accusers in these high octane, supercharged media sensations, these stories, and we saw it even a couple of months ago with Hugh Hefner's exes. You know, remember he dated those twins for a while, the Shannon sisters? Yeah, it's not something that I would want my daughter to do if I had a daughter, okay? I don't think that it's great behavior on Hugh Hefner's part, but guess what? Neither I nor you or anybody else gets to determine others' morality. And if two adults, people who are deemed to be adults by our society, and 18 is the number that we have settled on, it's lower in a number of places, and it's lower in a number of places like Germany that we would consider to be very civilized. But the point is, we have determined in society that 18 is the age of consent. And so look, nobody thinks that those two women, the Shannon sisters, when they dated Hefner, nobody thinks that they were with him for any reason other than what was plainly obvious, for the money and the connections and the prestige and the chance to kickstart their careers. Okay, it's very obvious, but that is their right. That is their right to behave in whatever way consensually they want to, all right? And so what's happened is it didn't work out as they wanted. They didn't end up getting what they wanted from it. I mean, or maybe they did, but now things are not great. And so they're trying to milk this very convenient story of sexual coercion. One of the Shannon sisters says of Hugh Hefner has said he used coercive measures to seduce her. Coercive measures. Okay, I can barely even say it. And what I don't like about it, and I've said this before, and I'm going to go into some more detail about it in some upcoming videos, where I'm really going to try to get more deeply into the philosophy of these different so-called feminist perspectives, Me Too, where I think that Me Too has gone too far. You know? I've said it before, I'll say it again. Lots of men are guilty, okay? And so what I'm interested though in covering is, I'm interested in covering stories that have not gotten a lot of attention. And I do think that there are a number of men who have been railroaded, use whatever term you want to use, but the victims of Me Too hoaxes. And I don't think that it's good for men, but I also don't think it's good for women. And so what we see, you know, again, is this sort of the squishiness of language. And I don't like that. And that's something that I've tried to address at different times on my show.